For question number 3, part B, we're looking at the graphs of the square root and the linear function. So when we add these two functions together, we're going to end up with f of x is square root x minus 3 plus x minus 2. Okay, so this is not a familiar function, but it does have some restrictions. So maybe we're going to start with the domain restriction. So the domain restriction for this is going to be x is greater than or equal to positive 3. For the linear function, it's going to be x is all real numbers. So when we combine the functions, the domain is going to be x is greater than or equal to 3. So when we graph this, we should expect an endpoint at x equals 3. So when I take a look at my graph, at x equals 3, y equals 0 for the f, and y equals -1 for g. So when I add them together, I end up with -1. And then I'm going to use coordinates at 4 and 7. The reason why I chose 4 and 7 because I know I have to plug it into this, and so I'm going to get whole number coordinates. So at x equals 4, I get 1 and -2, so that becomes -1. At x equals 7, I get 2 and looks like -5, so it's going to be -3. Okay, so my graph at x equals 3, -1, x equals 4, -1, and at x equals 7, -3. Okay, and it looks like the graph's going to kind of go like this and go down like that, and that's going to have an endpoint at +3, -1. So when I look at the domain of this, so the range of this is actually quite hard because the range technically is going to be up here somewhere. Okay, so it's going to be somewhere between -3 or +3 and +4, and it's likely going to be below 0. So I think in the range here, we're just going to put a question mark because it is quite difficult to find. For the subtraction, we're going to have the square root function, x minus 3 minus the x plus 2, negative x plus 2. Okay, so there's my function. The domain of this function is going to be x is greater than or equal to 3, same as before. And to work out this function, we're just going to plug in some coordinates. Again, we're going to start with a starting point of x equals 3. So we get 0 and -1. So 0 minus -1 is going to give us +1. At x equals 4, we have 1 and -2. So 1 minus -2 is going to be +3. And at x equals 7, we have 2 and -5. So 2 minus -5 is going to give us 7. So we know that x equals 3, y equals 1 is going to give us our starting point there. We have 4, 3, and then 7, 7, and the graph pretty much is going to go up in that direction. Since we're just adding on, we can say that with fair amount of certainty that that is the lowest point. So we can say that y is greater than or equal to 1.